When we looked at the base technique of Gift of Destruction, I explained the various attacks that this technique can counter, and that dictated the timing and the need to check our opponent's options by using his own deadweight against him. As always in Ed Parker's Kenpo, we are looking for a strike that he's not going to be able to block, and we're looking for a target that he cannot protect before we can strike it. In other words, the best move is always the one he has the lowest chance of preventing. And a big part of that is using the concept of path of least resistance. So as we now go into the extension of this technique, we are of course starting from the last part of the base technique, which means we just did an inward elbow strike to his head while we check and ideally pin his right arm. And from this position, we will now take our right arm and drop it straight down on top of our opponent's right shoulder or upper arm so we can grab and control him, while we use our left arm to strike to his face with an inward heel palm claw. And that means that our left forearm torques clockwise and our left elbow rapidly moves upwards so we have good alignment. And that is a very powerful strike from very close proximity. And since we're still checking our opponent's right arm, it's almost impossible for our opponent to block this heel palm claw. And while we are doing this, we are also going to move up the circle with our left foot, which lets us go through that target even further. We should also notice here that the left inward heel palm claw does more than just provide us with the fastest and most effective strike, because it also helps to protect us from our opponent's left arm in two ways. First, by striking the right side of our opponent's face, it will be very difficult for him to turn his upper body clockwise in order to hit us with his left arm. But our left inward heel palm claw also flows right into a positional check over our right shoulder to protect the right side of our face and head. So this is a very well thought out strategy, and every part of it helps to increase the likelihood of success. So as we now continue from this position, we will then use a right outward back knuckle strike to our opponent's face while we strike down to his hip with a left heel palm. It should be noted that this left heel palm can also serve as a block or check on the inside of the opponent's right arm. And we will turn into a right forward bow stance while we are doing this. We should notice that we are using our opponent's reaction and resistance to help us with this move. The harder he resists with his right arm, the more he helps us with his back knuckle. That's really what path of least resistance means. Instead of trying to fight him where he's strong, we'll fight him where he's weak. We should also notice that our hands almost always complement each other. For the benefit of speed and ease of execution, our hands counterbalance each other. It is important to understand that we use the concept of opposing forces to accomplish that. Next, we are going to again take advantage of where we ended up here as our next starting position. And we are going to execute a right inward hammer fist strike to his face, possibly even tracking on the inside of the opponent's left arm. And we will be turning back to a neutral bow stance as we are doing this. At this point, it is also important to understand that the way a Kenpo technique cancels the strikes of our opponent also cancels any attempted grabs or holds. In other words, all Ed Parker Kenpo techniques help to prevent or intercept somebody trying to punch us, but just as effectively cancel somebody who is trying to wrestle us. So if our opponent, for example, tries to grab with either of his arms, or maybe attempts a headlock, the combination of the first 4 strikes of this extension is going to make that extremely difficult for him. It simply doesn't matter if our opponent uses his arms to strike, or to grab, or to wrap it around us. The strikes of this extension are designed to prevent any or all of those things. So our next strike is a outward hammer fist to his stomach or solar plexus, because that target just opened up. And we usually enhance the strike by moving up the circle with our left foot. And we are going to continue to use our left hand to check his left arm. And that typically puts us on the outside of our opponent's left arm. Now, if we look at the position of our opponent's left arm, we should now be able to use this as a complementary angle for a left vertical punch to his face. From the checking position of our left hand, this punch gets right inside his left forearm to again make it unlikely that he can block it. And that also means that our next strike, which is a right knee strike to his right knee, is now obscured. He's probably not even going to see this coming. So as we are executing this left thrusting vertical punch to the left side of our opponent's jaw, we're also going to flow into a left front crossover, and we are going to end up in what Mr. Parker refers to as a transitional left front twist stance. And we're going to use this position in order to then thread a right knee strike to the inside of our opponent's knee. So as we are executing this right knee strike to our opponent's right knee, we need to also notice that at that very moment, our left hand has come back down to check on top of our opponent's left arm, which means that our left hand just turned clockwise again. And the reason why this is significant is because it sets up the next hand strike, which is going to be a left inward horizontal heel palm claw, which means it pivots counterclockwise. And of course, because we just executed a right knee strike, our right leg is raised high, and that's a perfect starting position for a right buckle to the inside of our opponent's left leg. And now as we are completing this buckle, our right forearm is going to move downward in order to control our opponent's midsection, and that gives us an opportunity to also execute a right heel palm to his groin. And this brings us to the end of the extension of Gift of Destruction.